Okay, we're going to type a web page. Normally you drag and drop things in a graphic sense to make a web page. This way we're going to actually type it. You should have a sheet of paper with the code on, which you can use to follow and copy it out. But if you've lost your sheet of paper or you're at home and want to have another go, then I'm going to type in the code now and try to explain one or two things as I go on. So we're going to create the web page. We're going to do it in text, and I'm going to create the web page with a little bit of explanation, not a great deal because it is rather complex, but I'm going to try to show you how I would lay out a web page. So the first thing I would do, here's Notepad++ started up, and I've got a new file. There's nothing in it at all. The first thing I'm going to do is save it. File, save as. I'm going to save it on my desktop, and I'm going to change the file type to HTML, Hypertext Markup Language. There's lots of different extensions. The one that we actually need is HTML, so I'm going to choose that. It's already put the extension on HTML. There's a little dot before it, that's really important, a full stop. And I'm going to call this map.html, and that is a web page. So if I click save, that has been saved, and you can see it on my desktop. It's just appeared here. If I double click on that, it opens up in a browser, and there's nothing in it because there's absolutely nothing in my file whatsoever. The first thing I'm going to do is lay out my code. So the very first line of a web page should be doc type HTML. Now that doesn't do anything other than tell browsers that what is coming after this line is a load of code. Then I'm going to set up my web page and say where the start of the web page is for the code, HTML as a tag. And a few lines later I'm going to put a closing tag, which is a / and then the same word. So HTML is the opening tag, and the closing tag has a /. So that's the start of the page, that's the end of the page. Now all web pages are split into two pieces. Let me just get this back on the screen. The first piece is this blue bit at the top with the address bar and the tags, the tab at the top, and I'm going to put some code in there to change this to a different name instead of giving me the location where it's stored. The second part is the content, the white part here, and that is called the body of the document, and I'll put most of my code in there. So let's make a start with the two bits. So the first one is head, that's the top of the page, and then end head. So that's the very top of the page, and then we've got the white content, which is body, and I can move it down to there, end body. So now I've laid out my web page. It won't do anything at all. I'm going to save it, but my head has been set up and the body's been set up, and I know where I'm going to put my coding. The next thing I'm going to do is actually change this to be lesson 1 instead of the file where it, or the location where it's stored. And there is a special tag for that called title. That means the tab. I'm going to call it lesson 1, and then I'm going to say that's the end of that title. So I've got title and end title and lesson 1. If I save it and then reload my page, my tag has now, or tab has now turned into lesson 1. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of a style in this. I need to have a style. We will deal with style sheets in the next lesson, but we can say what styles we want. And what I want to do is have my map have a certain size on the page. So I need the hash and the word map, and that's going to be a sort of identifier. It's going to tell me that everything I'm doing now links to the word map. And I need an open and close curly braces. You'll find those above the square braces on your keyboard, probably just to the right of the P. And the two things that I'm going to do, I'm going to press tab to move in, don't need to, but it just looks neater. I want the width of the map to be 100%, the whole width of the browser window, no matter how big or how small I make the browser, is going to fill the whole width, and I need a semicolon at the end of that line. Now in HTML or web pages, you don't often need semicolons, but you do if you have style or script tags, because we're now sort of using a different language altogether. And then I want the height. Now this time I'm going to be specific. I want it to be 400 pixels. That's 400 little dots on the screen high, and that has set up the style for my map. So the next thing I want to do is come into the body and start typing on the page. The first thing I want to do is have a block. Blocks in web pages are called divs. So you can have a div and it has a matching end tag. End div stands for division. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to link this div to this style. So this division has this style, and I do it like this. I say its ID is equal to map. So now that is a block, a rectangular block on the screen, and it's linked to map. So it's now giving that block the full width and 400 pixels high. The next thing I want to do is actually do some scripting. This is like JavaScript. So again, I've got a script tag and I need an end script tag to say where it ends. And inside here, I'm going to do some what I call initialization, setting up of the map. So I'm pressing tab to move across, and I'm going to say that this is a function called init map, initialize the map. Then I need an open and close round brackets there above the 9 and 0 on your keyboard, then an open and close curly braces, which is again to the right of the P above the square bracket, so you'll need to use the shift key. I'm going to press enter a couple of times to give myself some space to work in. I'm going to press tab again to move across, and I'm going to create two variables. The first variable is equal to, the first variable is called map div, and I'm going to set that equal to this. So the variable, every time I use the word map div, it's going to relate to this block here, but I've got to tell it about it. So the way that happens is document, which means the whole web page, dot get element. Now each one of these tags is called an element, so end style or style, head, HTML, they're all elements, and I'm going to get it by the ID because I set the ID there for map. So I'm going to tell it to look for everything on the page that has got an ID which is map, and I'm using single quote marks for that. And I'm putting a semicolon at the end of the line because we're inside a script. The next variable is a little bit harder to explain, but it's just a variable which talks to Google and goes and fetches a map based on some information that I give it, and it holds that map. So the variable is going to be called map, and it is a new Google. So we're going to Google, we're going to their maps section, and we're going to ask them for a map. What I'm going to do now is open and close brackets, round brackets above the 9 and 0, and end the line with a semicolon, and I'm going to start typing inside here. Now I tend to put the start and finish things together so that I don't miss one out. Sometimes when you miss one out, things just don't work. So I tend to put them all together to begin with so that I know that my program should work. So I want it to be working for the map div. So it's going to look for the map div variable, which is the item, the div item on here, which has got the ID map. So that's what it's looking for, and in there it's going to put some map details. Now I need to use the open and close curly braces next to the P, and the first thing I want to do, and don't forget I've just put a comma in there because these are two different things. The first thing I need is to work out what the center of the map is, and that is American spelling, and the center of the map is some latitude and longitude coordinates, and what I've done is I've opened and closed some curly braces again, and finally I want to have how far in I have zoomed, and I'm going to choose a level of 15, which is really close, almost down to the road level. If you choose 1, then you're looking at it as the whole earth, and if you go down to 20, you're probably looking at a blade of grass. So I've chosen a zoom level of 15. One more thing to do, I need to say what the center is, and what that center is two things. There's a latitude with lat, and there's a longitude with LNG, long. Now I've looked these values up beforehand. All points on Earth have a latitude and longitude, and I've looked these up for Forest High School, and the latitude is 51.829009, and comma for the longitude is minus 2.494022, and that should place me right in Forest High School. So that is a variable set up. So wherever the word map appears in my code, it's going to be placing this map at that center and zoom level 15. So we're almost finished now. What I need to do is another piece of script. So I'm going to have a new area for some script, and obviously an end script. Now the whole idea of this part is this is where it's going to talk to Google and go and get those pieces of information. Now I'm actually not going to put any code inside here, but I'm going to give it what we call an attribute. I'm going to set up, like we did here with div, the ID was map. I'm going to put the script and then some information to call Google, and the line is async defer. Now what that means is it's not going to display the map until it's got all the data. It's going to defer displaying it until it's got all the data for the map. And now if I just carried on typing here, I'd get really a really long line. So what I'm going to do is press enter so that my typing is a little bit clearer, and it's got a Google key in here which is massive and prone to mistakes. So I'm going to say the source for my page where I want to go to is a web page, and it is, so I've used two quotes, https maps.google.com/maps/API/JSON, JS or JavaScript, sorry, and then it wants the key. So I've used a question mark and then the word key equals. Now you have to be careful typing this in. I'm probably going to make a mistake, but we'll find out. If the map doesn't display, this is where I've probably made my error. So capital A, capital I, little z, little a, capital S, little y, capital B, capital H, 4, little v, little m, little k, little I, little x, capital G, capital E, capital X, capital Z, little e, a minus sign, capital R, capital Z, little y, little v, capital A, 9, 1, I think that is, capital D, little y, little k, little O, little D, capital K, little k, 5, capital H, little O, 1, I think that is, 0. Then an ampersand, which is hold down the shift key and press 7, I think it is, and then call back equals init map. So what that is going to do, I've got a special key which is my key. When you log into Google and you want to use all of their programming, they give you a special key. Sometimes they will charge you for it. This one is a free one, but it allows you to use their maps. And the second part is called callback init map. So it goes, finds the map with that key, and then when it's got it, it calls it back, comes to this function and starts filling these things in. So this map here will fill out with the map details that are there. That should be the file. Now, if I've made a mistake, the chances are I've made a mistake in this key, and the chances are these ones could be L's, that one there and that one there could be an L, or that one there could be an L. The rest I think is okay. So I'm going to save that, and then I'm going to refresh my map. And there we go, perfect. Oh, it was perfect. So maybe I can reload that. It certainly doesn't like it in this one. Now we can run it in maybe Google Chrome. So I'm going to run launching Google Chrome. Hopefully that will work. Something seems to be happening. Okay, so we've definitely made a mistake somewhere. What is important is, I think, all of this key works. And pretty much everything. We may have missed off a semicolon off the end of a line or something. But that seems to be fine as far as I can see. Yeah. So I'm going to leave it there. It does work. I will post on here if I find any problem. It might just be my computer at the moment, but that should work for you.